Aloha EACTE and welcome to Navigating the New Normal video workshop series. I'm your host, Alyssa Alcos, and today we have our final installment of our virtual notebook series from Kaylee Concepcion and Emma Davers, all the way from Waianae High School. I hope you have been enjoying these sessions. Session 1, we introduced what a virtual notebook is and how to get started. Session 2, we went over tips, tricks, and how to use manipulatives. And in session 3, we're going to introduce how to roll out your virtual notebooks and overcome any obstacles together. We hope that you've enjoyed it and have come out with an excellent product for you to implement in your classrooms. Let's get ready to listen in because this session starts in 3, 2.
Hey everyone, so we're on our last session for this Virtual Notebooks PED that Emma and I co-created together. So thanks for sticking with us for the past 2 videos. In this last video, what we're going to talk about is rolling out a virtual notebook and then troubleshooting any obstacles. So Emma, last session, she did all the tips and tricks, manipulatives. She's so great at doing all those things and thinking of like ways to use the virtual notebook and ways you can use it across content. And then in the first session, I just introduced you all to how to set up a virtual notebook and all of that. So now that we know all the tips and tricks, we know how to set it up, we can figure out how to roll out the virtual notebook. So today I'm going to be talking mostly about like challenges and how you can overcome any challenges with the virtual notebook, because there are challenges as anything in teaching or implementing anything in teaching, really, assigning work in general. So yeah, let's get right into it. So one of the biggest challenges that I hear people like that stray away from doing a virtual notebook is front loading all the planning, because if you know anything about Google Classroom, is when you assign something on Google Classroom and you make a copy for each student, that's it. There's no turning back. You made a mistake on that doc, you misspelled something, oh well, like it's assigned to everyone. So and the only way that you can go and fix that mistake is if you go into every kid's assignment and help them fix it, or you tell the kids to go and fix it, which isn't 100% bulletproof bulletproof solution, but it just takes some time. So to avoid having to to avoid having to like front load everything, there's this really great add-on called Slip and Slide, and I'll talk about that in a second. And the second thing that's one of the biggest challenges is teaching students the skills to use things like Google Slides or Google Docs and all of that, which I'm not necessarily going to go into, but it is really helpful if kids know how to do things like split their screen so that while they're writing in the notes, they can see whatever they're looking at, like your Nearpod or your slide deck or your Pear Deck, whatever deck, and they can see their notes and just type in as you folks are going along. Another thing is, like, I know kids sometimes don't know how to make bullets, or like, oh, they messed up a table, like they accidentally click and drag the table all the way across the slide, so they don't know how to get back to it. Those are a few things, but I feel like those challenges, like you just have to show them how to do it. And yeah, one of my instructional coaches last year, he made a really good point about students and technology. And he said that kids, they know how to work phones really well. They know how to like be on Instagram and social media and work apps that they are familiar with, like YouTube and whatever, but they're not necessarily tech savvy. Right? They know how to do social media and they know how to like post things and talk to their friends on the computer all day long, but they don't necessarily know how to like manipulate technology so that it works for them. Not everyone anyway, but I just wanted to share that because I thought that was super true, because a lot of my kids really great on their phones, not great on other technology. Okay, so the first thing I wanted to talk about was this really cool add-on called Slip and Slide. So Slip and Slide is just an add-on You can get it on the Google Workspace Marketplace. Also, if you just like Google, or if you Google slip and slide add-on, Google Slides or extension, whatever. It's going to show you all of these guys, but you're going to want to click the Google Workspace Marketplace, and it'll take you here. And basically, what Slip and Slide is you can put in slides. So let's say that you've already assigned a virtual notebook to your kids, and you wanted to add on another thing, like another slide or another activity for them. This cool add-on does that for you, because the only other way that you can do that is if you copy and paste the slide into every kid's notebook, which no one wants to do that. Slip and Slide is awesome because you just click around a few times and then it puts the slide in to the place you want it. Or if you want to put multiple slides, you can do that. If you want to add in just like 1 or 2 slides, you can also do that. So just depends. And it's really great because if you've never used or if you've never accessed your students' work through Google Drive, all it does is that it takes a copy of that slide that you're putting it in, and then it's taking that slide into the Google Drive folder. That's the Google Classroom folder. If you've never seen it before on your Drive, I'll show you in a second. And it just like puts them directly into each folder. So it's super awesome and super easy. Yeah, haven't really had any trouble with it. The only time I've had trouble with it is when it copied the same slide twice once, but that was an easy fix. Okay, so I actually need to put a slide into my students' virtual notebook. So the first thing you're going to do after you download the Slip and Slide add-on is you're going to click add-on. So just like how you would if you use Nearpod or Pear Deck, they have add-ons. And then you're just going to click start. It's going to work and do its thing. The thing about Slip and Slide though, I think you have like 3 months free, and then afterwards, I think I'm still on the free trial. So after that 3 months though, you're gonna have to like pay like $10 if you want to continue using it. I personally think it's worth it. If your school will buy it for you, that's awesome too. But yeah, I use this kind of a lot, so I think it's worth it. And then what you're going to want to do, so the first time you use it, it's going to look a little bit different. It'll say select a single folder in Google Drive. So you want to click that. It should be on the first menu that pops up. And then I'm going to click select a Google Classroom folder. So this here is all the student presentations or all the student assignments that's in your Google Classroom, because if you notice, like when you say make a copy for each student when you're assigning something, it all gets stored in your Google Drive. So this is how Slip and Slide finds each of your students' virtual notebooks and puts in that slide. So you're going to click select a Google Classroom folder. And then I need to do my second period. They need the slide for my second period, so I'm just going to click that one. And then Unit 1 Ecology Virtual Notebook. So that's the notebook that I'm using. Then you're just going to click Select. So it's updating the add-ons menu and just wait for it to close. So then you're going to click add-ons again, and then you're going to put slip slides into Unit 1 Ecology Virtual Notebook. And this is where all the fun is. Okay. So the cool thing about this is you can do like an entire presentation if you're like putting in like 3 or 4 slides. What we're on right now is my template. So this is like where I make all of my students, like the template for all of my students' notes and stuff. So I'm just going to click current slide. I like to keep my notebook like the exact same as my kids. So I try to like put it in the order that they would have it. So we're going to do this slide that I'm currently highlighted on. So slide 10. We're only going to do 1 slide, but you can do more. So if you wanted to do 8, 9, and 10, you would choose 8, choose end number 10. And then I'm going to actually slip it into the middle. So if you click slip the slide into the start, so prior to the first slide, it's just going to be at the top. If you want to do it at the end, it'll just slip it into the end. But I want to slip it into slide 10. and then I'm going to slip it to the middle. So this means that it's going to put it in the middle of the presentation. It's not the end. You're just choosing what slide number that you want your presentation to go to, or you want this for your students' virtual notebook. This is going to show what slide number you want it at. And then it's just going to slip to the middle, and that's it. And then after like a minute or so, it'll show you all the places that it put the virtual notebook. What I like to do after it's done is I like to go on Google Classroom and double check that it went to the correct place. So like I click on a kid's virtual notebook and I double check that it all went through. Okay, and then it tells you that it went into all these presentations. So it basically went into all of your students' virtual notebooks. Then it also tells you if it failed to slip. You can just, if it does fail to slip, what I do is I just copy it and then paste it manually into the kid's notebook. So yeah, that's Slip Inside. Super helpful though. Like now all I do is like I front load some of the notes, or as much as I like have the capacity for in 1 or 2 days, and then I just slip everything else in. Like I slipped this activity in. In Unit 3, I did like a whole bunch of slip and slides once I figured out how to do it. So this is last semester. But yeah, you can slip in diagrams. Like I slipped in all of these and it was super helpful. And before, like my notebooks used to just be notes. And now since I like input activities in here as well, it's really it makes it more like useful for the kids because they have to refer back to here in order for them to do well on their tests and stuff. Yeah, so I slip a whole bunch of things in here too. It's just me like, showing off, whatever. I also really like to supplement student learning by like putting tables if they need it. This is a giant codon table. So just putting in like giant tables and stuff in here, or like diagrams or like pictures that students can refer back to, like this. You can even use GIFs. I love using GIFs, especially in like super visual like units that we have in science. So you can do stuff like this too. This is mostly to supplement their learning, but it's super helpful because then students can refer back to it. And you want, the whole reason why we do virtual notebooks is so students will use them, right? Okay, so that is the big challenge. I unlocked a new level for us. Actually, someone else did. I don't know, whoever created Slip and Slide, thank you. Shout out to you. Okay, last thing we are going to talk about is rolling out a virtual notebook. So this part is pretty much like you make it however you see fit to your class, but these are generally the things I think about when I'm creating some sort of notebook, whether it's in-class interactive notebooks or this virtual notebook that I'm having the kids use now through distance learning. So the first thing you want to think about when you're creating a virtual notebook and wanting to roll it out is just understanding your structure. Like you want to know what, and I think I mentioned this in the first video, but I just think it's really important to reiterate, is understand like where you want things, like, do you want a table of contents so get kids know what to do? Do you want kids to track their own work? Where do you want to put it all in the middle? Do you want to have just notes in here? Do you want to have activities too? So think about those things when you're creating your notebook. I personally really like having table of contents and trackers in here. It then makes it not just like things that I type. Like as a student, it's not just like I just type in here because Ms. has the notes up. It's more for them, And so I always tell kids like, this is for you, not for me. So this is to help you. Like, so you do what you want with it, because ultimately, in my opinion, like kids who have like the greatest notebooks, or not necessarily the greatest, but like have the most well done and thorough notebooks and like keep up with everything in their notebook, usually have good grades. So that's just a correlation that I tell the kids. And then also like think about, how do you want your notebook at the unit to end, right? So do you want to have like a reflection or whatever? Think about those things and work backwards from there, and then your notebook will come a lot easier. Yeah. Where was I? Other things to think about as you're making your virtual notebook or you're planning to roll this out. I would just tell kids like the first notebook you assign, I would just make it transparent to them and how it's going to help their learning. So like I usually tell kids that, if you want to do well on your assessments this unit, like you need to keep up with your notebook. I'm not gonna reiterate everything that's in your notebook to you because it was already there and I've already done that. So just making it transparent to kids, like you need to do this in order for you to get a good grade on your summatives, or like in order for you to get to where you want to be in the class, like your notebook will help you do that. Like it's to help you. Other things are checking regularly. So I check them like once or twice a week. I don't every day because that's just like too much. And then if you remember in the first video, I talked about rubrics, and that's how Emma and I basically check their notebooks. So I check it at the end of each unit. Like I give them a grade at the end of each unit. So that's like within a month. But I check them, like I go through their notes and make sure they're doing it and give them feedback. So I like to use the comment system. And then I just type like, hey, so and so, like, great work on your notes today, or like, don't forget about your summary. So that way kids like internally know, like, oh, Miss is gonna check this and it matters. And it's just super easy. Honestly, I just copy and paste feedback for the most part. So and then lastly, the biggest thing is to show them how to use it. So if you're like answering a question that's on another assignment and it comes from your virtual notebook, I'm not always great at this, but I try to show kids like, oh, like for this first question, it's in key point number 1 of last week's or this week's notes. So I would go to your virtual notebook and I'd actually have the tab open and read through key point number 1 in your notes, and that should help you answer this question, because usually for the most part it's like right there. Kids just need to see you do it and see like you model it and you see you make it clear to them. And usually I'll just tell kids it's in your notes, like I'm not gonna do that whole shebang for you again. Or explain it to them again is what I mean. Okay, so I think those are the biggest things with rolling out a virtual notebook and like overcoming the challenge of front loading all your planning. So I hope it was helpful. That's kind of all Emma and I had for you folks, but thank you so much for watching this and taking the time out to learn from Emma and I. And big shout out to Alyssa because she asked us to do this and we're so happy to help.